Well, it's Christmas Eve, everyone, and as I said last time, we're not done talking about Krampus. Though this time, we're gonna see some familiar faces, that being the Bat Family, as we tackle Batman, Santa, Silent Night. Published actually last year in 2023. Batman, Santa, Silent Night was a weekly miniseries where, as the title implies, Batman and Santa Claus team up to face off against evil. I can't actually find the origin of what led to this book's creation, though I do have my theories, and I'll get more into that as we dive into this book. Warning, spoilers. The story opens in Gotham, as a bunch of carolers are singing the classic, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." It's cut short by attack of these bat creatures that massacre them. Batman and Robin come in, and of course, Robin immediately believes it's Kirk Langstrom. I mean, bat creatures, their blood was drained, fits. But Batman believes unlikely, as the Man-Bat is currently locked up in Arkham. Well, to be fair, there's technically multiple Man-Bats, but whatever, I'm not even sure that's canon anymore. Batman actually believes that it could be something more occult, given how the bodies were left. So, he calls in an expert, Zatanna. To those who don't know, Zatanna is a sorcerer in the DC universe, loves the old school magician motif, and commonly uses spells that involve her having to talk backwards. As she uses magic to examine the body, they quickly find out what actually caused it. A Drog. Whoa, that is a very different Draugr. Those who don't know, a Draugr, or Drog as the book calls them, are most of the time depicted as ice zombies that can be defeated by either fire or cutting their heads off and putting them up the ass. That's not a joke, look it up. But here, they're depicted more like these vampiric creatures that almost attack Robin, but he's saved by Santa, holding a frickin' crossbow. Immediately, he is awesome. Zatanna and Robin are shocked to see him. In fact, Robin actually doesn't believe it is Santa, since, yeah, when Damian first came to Gotham, his Christmas there was not great, I'll just say that. In fact, the only one not surprised is Batman, as apparently, during his travels, he encountered Saint Nick. I absolutely love the fact they just go, of course you frickin' know Santa. Batman gets a call from Batgirl and Nightwing that the Drogs are attacking again, and though they cut it pretty close, Santa and the others are able to save them just in time. That is when we learn the origin of Santa in this universe. Much like Violent Night and Klaus, this Santa has a much more badass origin, as he started his career during the times of the Vikings, as he would give out gifts in honor of Woden. Since, fun fact, in Nordic mythology, during the time of Yule, Odin was kind of the Santa Claus figure, where he would give gifts. He would go on adventures, fight monsters, particularly the forces of Ragnarok. Some of you might be noticing that sounds familiar. And he wasn't alone, as he had assistance from Krampus, who back in the day was actually his ally, and pretty friendly to people. But something happened that would lead to the two not just splitting up, but Krampus becoming far more vicious, leading to him revealing that he is the antagonist of this story. And as things are getting more and more crazy, Batman calls the League, leading to this really awesome moment where Superman realizes that Batman knows Santa and kind of geeks out. It's a very wholesome moment. Now you're probably wondering, what led to Krampus and Santa having a falling out? What is Krampus planning to do? And what exactly in Bruce's travels led to him meeting Santa? Well, okay, the latter never gets answered, but for the rest, you're gonna have to read to find out. This book is tons of fun, though I will say the title's a bit misleading, as yeah, it's not just Batman Santa, it's pretty much Batman teaming up with the entire League with Santa. Sure, not all of them get a lot of focus, but still, the League are heavily involved. They're fighting the Drogs, along with other creatures that are joining Krampus in the fight. Now, you probably noticed that this version of Santa does seem very familiar, particularly with Boom Studios' Klaus. And as I said, I have my theories on why this story was created, and I think that originally this was meant to be a crossover with Klaus, as the way Santa is depicted is very similar to his character. Even how he's drawn sometimes is very similar. They even got Dan Mora to do the cover art, but for one reason or another, they just weren't able to secure the crossover, and instead they decided to do their own version of Santa that just had inspirations from the Morrison's book. Though, I will admit, I could be wrong, since as I also mentioned, this has been done before, again, Violent Night, but either way, it's handled well and it still feels like its own thing. The book was written by Jeff Parker, who many comic fans would know for the Agents of Atlas book, along with my personal favorite, X-Men First Class. And yeah, he is clearly having fun with this. From the action scenes, to the world building, to the characters' reaction to finding out that Santa Claus is frickin' real. Well, except for Superman, he always believed he was real. Like, you could just tell he really just enjoyed himself. Honestly, my only real nitpick with this is that there is a bit of some obvious forced synergy. Like, for example, they made the Batcave look a lot like the Batcave from Matt Reeves' Batman movie, since it was still a pretty big hit. I do feel like the ending did kind of wrap up a little bit too nicely, especially when it comes to Krampus' character, but that might just be me. Moving on to characters, of course, we're going to talk about Batman. And yeah, Jeff Parker definitely took inspiration from Batman Brave and the Bold here, though a bit more serious. This is a Batman who has experienced it all and just rolls with it. Despite everyone else freaking out over how crazy it is that Santa Claus is there, he is just trying to keep a cool head and keep everyone safe. He doesn't really get any big character arcs, but for this story, he doesn't really need one. The only time he really gets concerned is when Damian is captured. More on him in a bit. but for most of it, this Batman is able to keep everything together. Next up, we have Santa. Again, I did have some serious Klaus vibes. In fact, for some scenes, he's actually called Klaus, where he's this larger-than-life adventurer who has gone through many journeys through space and time and faced several different magical foes and beyond that. Though, unlike Grant Morrison's character, he's a lot more, not angry per se, but more frustrated. And when you learn more about his backstory, especially when it comes to him and Krampus, you kind of see why. I really do hand to Parker here, as he's able to balance it out pretty well, where, yeah, no, he's still Santa. He's still a jolly old elf everyone knows and loves. Hell, they even have this nice little thing where whenever he talks to a character, he has to talk about where they live and what they asked for Christmas when they were kids. There's more I could say, but that would lead to spoilers. So, let's just say, this is Santa Claus you definitely want keeping an eye on you. Next, we have Robin, Damian Wayne. And yeah, he definitely goes on a journey. At first, disbelieving that Santa Claus is real, since, again, he's had some insane Christmases in the past, and some of them involving guys dressing up as Santa, but also has lived a life where being a kid isn't really in the cards. Yeah, sure, he's gotten more chances to be a kid, especially hanging out with John Kent, but his foot's always to adulthood, while the other one is struggling to stay in adolescence. When he later gets captured by Krampus, because of course that kid's gonna be captured by Krampus, he actually has to think his way out of it, and it does lead to this really fun moment where Damian has to act super scared of him, while at the same time try to figure out what exactly is going on with him. It's pretty clever. I dug it. And finally, there's Krampus. And oh boy, this version of Krampus is very interesting. Now, despite the fact he's designed to look like the Krampus from Klaus, this Krampus is not a straight up villain. As I mentioned in the story synopsis, this Krampus started off as an ally, but as time went on, he became more bitter, more vicious, and became less focused on beating the children and more of eating and tormenting the children. Which makes it even more tragic when you really do get to know him before all this, making him a more tragic character. Now, there is more about him turning to the dark side, but again, that's more in the spoiler territory. But during the present day, he is just a monster ready for a fight, and at first seems to really enjoy tormenting people, though you do get glimpses that that might not actually be the case. This Krampus has a lot of layers to his character that I feel a lot of people are going to be interested in. As for the rest of the cast, yeah, again, I can't say too much about them, though I will repeat, Superman has the best moments with Santa, especially during the climax, while everyone else here is just there to help. And I still believe that though they don't get too much focus, that this book really should have been called Justice League and Santa, as it is a team effort in the end. The book has multiple artists here, which each varying from trying to be a lot like Dan Mora to trying to look more gritty and realistic. I feel like don't work that well, especially when it brings in Krampus. But all around, pretty good. On a whole, Batman Santa Silent Nights is just a fun holiday treat that I recommend to any DC fan. Hell, the book was so successful, at the time of this video, it already has a sequel, with its conclusion coming out this week. So yeah, no, it's pretty good. Check out The Silent Night That's Not Always Calm. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates. Next time, well, it's gonna be Christmas Day, and of course, we'll be talking about Batman the Last Halloween. Later.